two senior guards that are really experienced in Javonte Smart and Skylar Mays. They have a great freshman in Waterford who's a really difficult matchup. Days is a difficult matchup because he can knock down threes, and he killed us on the glass. He might have had more rebounds than our whole team. And then Williams is a fantastic player with his second jump and his reaction to loose balls. I mean, this is, in my opinion, it's one of the most talented teams in the entire country.
All right, let's feed off that right now, Mike. Emmett Williams, somebody they've used off the bench here recently. Saw that against A&M, but those guys that Moss just mentioned, very good players. Skylar Mays, 19 points in the first matchup this season against Arkansas. Javonte Smart had 10. Darius Days, 16 points, 16 rebounds. He was all over the glass during that game against Arkansas back in January. Trendon Watford, fabulous player, 6'9", had 21 points in that game. And you look at inside in those final seconds, and then in particular, what happened as far as the rejections from Charles Manning. Manning had 2 blocks in the final seconds in that game in January, and that sealed it for LSU. Arkansas just had a lot of missed opportunities in that game, Mike.
Well, and it's not surprise. Again, to me, the only surprise was how close the game was, considering it was also a road game. But that doesn't mean that it'll, okay, Arkansas came within 2 there, that they should win here. I don't look at it that way. I think it'll still be an upset if Arkansas wins this game. I certainly think they can. But you got to do some things to neutralize what they do. So I mentioned steals. Arkansas actually shoots more free throws than these guys. LSU is a really good percentage-wise free throw shooting team, but they don't get fouled as much as Arkansas does, largely because of Mason Jones, because he draws all those fouls. So, I think if you ask most Razorback fans, they don't feel like that Arkansas gets much of a break from referees at home, but they do generally tend to get more, go to the line more at home than they certainly do on the road. So if LSU fouls more and Arkansas goes to the line, maybe there's a significant difference there. That could help. Three-point shooting is the obvious thing. Arkansas is a slightly better three-point shooting team. But if Mason Jones and Isaiah Joe could heat up, and hit a lot of threes, that's another way you could win this game. And then here's another way. Toward the end of this season, or this regular season, we've seen Jimmy Witt drop off a little bit offensively. And if you watch him go up against some of these other guys, some of these really good shooters from other teams, you see why. He's just having to work his tail off. And I'm sure the guy's really tired. So fresh legs have a lot to do with shooting, but if Jimmy Witt were to have a big game, Desi Sills, Arkansas's got about 4 guys that are all capable of going over 20 points. Well, if you get 3 of them over 20, maybe you got a shot, but then LSU is right up there 3rd in the conference in scoring. And number 1 in field goal percentage because they have so many inside points. They score so well off the glass, second chance points right around the rim. So I don't know what you do to stop the rebounding issue. I think it's a game where you definitely have to shoot well from the outside.
Yeah, and speaking of shooting well from the outside, if you look at it in that matchup in January, Arkansas made 8 threes against LSU. Went 8 of 25 from 3. And some other notes as far as that game is concerned, Mike mentioned it, the steals for Arkansas. Arkansas can get so many steals. They had 8 in that game against LSU back in January. LSU had just 1. Turnovers, Arkansas doesn't commit a lot of turnovers. When you look at the scope of the season, Mike, 13 turnovers committed by LSU in that first matchup this season, just 7 for Arkansas. But a lot to get to in terms of personnel-wise, because inside, you see what LSU presents, those challenges they present, and you're just looking for more and more contributions somehow from the post players from Arkansas, because Reggie Chaney, will he play more minutes tonight? Ethan Henderson, what will happen? He is a guy who's capable of getting a lot of fouls quickly. Then again, Chaney the same way. And we saw Chaney had a critical technical foul in that first half against LSU, and that kind of turned the game. Arkansas had a 10-point lead. They had a double-digit lead in that first game in the first half against LSU earlier this season.
Yeah, Georgie played 2 minutes, Chaney. Now, something happened there. I'm not sure exactly what, but Musselman took him out very quickly. Now, Ethan Henderson, you know what happened to him. He played just 6 minutes, but he had 4 fouls in 6 minutes. After playing very well at home against Tennessee. So what does he do? Does he go now? He admits he plays better at home, and he explained that after the Tennessee game. He said it means more to me here because I'm from Arkansas. Okay, now you got to step up because this game is really important. It's part of the only shot you've got at the NCAA tournament. If you win this one, you win at A&M, win a couple of SEC tournament games, then there are some people that will say you might get in, and so. But you can't do that if you lose tonight. So you got to win this game. So Ethan Henderson needs to step up. Reggie Chaney needs to, whatever the problem is, he's got to step up. And then Adriel Bailey has to have a big game.
Yeah,
too.
I'm going to take a few of your comments here as I take a look at my phone here as we talk with Mike a little bit more. We got a few more minutes here on this Facebook Live pregame show. Arkansas LSU SEC matchup tonight, and for the second time this season, the Hogs and Tigers square off this time around at Bud Walton Arena. The game will start at 6. Arkansas is a team 6-10 right now in the SEC. 2 games left in the regular season. LSU tonight. Then they'll be at Reed Arena on Saturday to take on Texas A&M before going to Music City, Nashville, Tennessee, Bridgestone Arena, as Arkansas tries to avoid that play-in game on Wednesday. But something I want to get to when you look at the background on this season, just body of work-wise, and how much one guy, in particular, somebody like Isaiah Joe, his absence hurts this team. We saw back when he was out those 5 games, and they lost all 5. And during that 5-game losing streak, if you look now at games decided by 5 points or less in SEC play, Arkansas is 2-5 in those games.
Right.
But in 3 of those games, they didn't have who? Isaiah Joe. Yeah. So it is one of those things where Musselman told me a few weeks ago, he said, this is not horseshoes, Drew. You know, you get close, you don't get anything for that. You got to somehow close the deal, and can they do that tonight against LSU? Last couple of possessions, we'll see if that's the case.
Well, obviously, Isaiah Joe needs to score. 20-plus points would be a big help. He's got to play defense. He's got to rebound some because he can rebound. He's had games where he rebounds well. Arkansas's guards are going to have to rebound better. They're going to have to battle inside some. There's all kinds of things that have to happen in this game for them to win. And it really depends a lot of their mental attitude going into this game. How important is it? We're not in that locker room. We don't know if these guys pretty much checked it in after the Georgia game and said, well, we can't win this thing now. You know, we're going to let go of the rope. We don't know whether they'll have that or not, whether they'll be fired up. We don't know what kind of crowd there's going to be tonight. There's just a lot of unknowns. That's why sports is fun. That's why I enjoy it. We can sit here and talk all day long, but what I know about a specific game, and whether you're talking football, basketball, or baseball, or whatever, you never really know for sure what's going to happen in that game. We can analyze the fool out of it, but things, each game in all of these sports take on a life of their own once they start.
Yeah, that's a great point because that's exactly what Muss always says. He says, you know, each game takes on its own identity. Lance Mattingly says we need to show up on the glass tonight. Clearly, we talked about the glass and the disparity in that first matchup with LSU, and we've seen so many close games where it just hasn't gone Arkansas's way this season. That was one of them there at the PMAC earlier this season. And to Lance's point, he's talking about Chaney and Henderson, how they got to step up. But you look at Adriel Bailey, and you talked about it, and I'm glad you brought that up because Adriel's a senior. He has been with the Razorbacks all 4 of his seasons with the Razorbacks, and he grew up around Skylar Mays. So, you know, it's not just he's from Louisiana, Adriel Bailey, and he wants to beat LSU tonight. Last opportunity to do so, perhaps, unless they see him in the SEC tournament. But also because he grew up with Skylar Mays, so it'd be nice to see Adriel have a great night on senior night. 4 seniors will be honored tonight, by the way. You talk about what's going on here. You got Gene Tall-Silla, Jamario Bell, Adriel Bailey, and Jimmy Witt. And I guess as I segue here, you know, you look in the post in particular, this is just a team where you talked about how much it's a big deal for the guards to rebound well for Arkansas. Why? Because Muss has a lot of confidence in his big guys as far as offensive rebounders, but defensive rebounding-wise, not so much.
Well, and you have to hope, this is another thing where you keep your fingers crossed, that when Arkansas's guys get in there and start battling, that they get fouled, that the fouls are called. Because a lot of times they're not. And fans get all angry, the referees don't call it. There was a study done, at least somebody on the internet I was reading this claimed that Arkansas had more fouls called by a great percentage than any other conference, Arkansas, the SEC, because, you know, there's been complaints all from fans, not just Arkansas fans, all over the league this year. There's been complaints about how many fouls have been called. But believe me, as much as those complaints are out there, no one would complain if LSU fouled a lot in this game. And that's one of the things, another things that has to happen. You got to get in there and battle and hope if you put them in a position where you've got position, so in order for them to rebound, they have to foul you, and then the foul gets called. Mm-hmm. So we'll see if any of those things come true.
Yeah, and Mason Jones being the focal point of this team, somebody who's in the conversation for SEC Player of the Year. He's the co-SEC Player of the Week. Emmanuel Quickly from Kentucky sharing that honor with Mason Jones, who's a junior for the Razorbacks, second-year Razorback. And I want to bring up Mason because Mike alluded to it earlier in this Facebook Live. Mason Jones leads the country in free throws made. So you got to feel good if he can somehow drive it and draw that contact. And if you have to honor what Desi Sills is doing tonight, all the more reason why you would feel good about Arkansas's chances. If Sills is hitting it, then they got to honor the fact that they got to step out on Sills. So then you got to step out on Jones. And then if Joe's making it, as you said, that could be a three-headed monster. You feel really good about Arkansas's chances tonight, but just hold your own on the glass. We'll see. All right, we're going to get out of here. 6 o'clock tonight. SEC Network is where you can find it. Arkansas at LSU. We'll see you.